Howdy everyone. Today I'm going to be taking apart my headlights. I already built them, but I ran into a little problem and I need to replace it. So I just wanted to give you all a quick tutorial on how to open your 5th gen 4Runner headlights. So these are the ones I built. So you can see one of the LED strips. It's kind of hard to see because of the brightness. I'll try to lower it here. It's turned pink, so it combines red, blue, and green to make white. So what I'm seeing now is that the green LED in that little section has turned off. So I got it warranted. Everything was purchased through Lightworks, and they went ahead and sent me a new strip for that area. I'll put their link in the description. You can purchase these components almost anywhere. The Retrofit Source is a big one. You know, there's different companies, but I choose Lightworks just because their customer service has been second to none for me. But yeah, they went ahead and sent me this new strip. They warrantied it out so I can replace that big 18-inch strip across the top right there. So I want to go ahead and say that if you do want to attempt this, it is not easy. You can always pay somebody to do it. I personally have been doing this since I was in high school, and it's just been a little hobby for me. The OEM headlights are significantly harder to open because they're PERMASEAL. These are aftermarket headlights which came with butyl, so they were a lot easier to open. So just know if you open up your OEM headlights, it's going to be significantly harder, but they'll probably last a lot longer than these. I don't know how long these are supposed to last. Most of the time, aftermarket headlights aren't as good because they'll yellow faster or something, but I plan on wrapping these with some clear bra or just some clear vinyl to protect them from, the UV. I also ceramic coated them already. But yeah, so please only do this at your own risk. I don't take any responsibility if you damage your car or headlights or anything like that. So this right here, this is the app that controls my headlights. The controller's under my hood right now. I'm just gonna show y'all what actually messed up on it. I'm just waiting for it to connect. So right there it connected. So I had it set to red last time. But if I go through the colors, if you notice when I get to green, it should turn off. And right there, you can see when it's almost solid green, it's completely off. So not a big deal. I wired it where I can control each channel separately. So on channel 1, which you can see it has a white square on it, I can change just this halo to whatever I want. The second channel, now it's selected, I can change that to whatever I want. And then the third channel, I made a splitter for both of these. This is a 3-inch profile strip. This is the 18-inch strip. And I put those on one channel, so now I can control both of those at the same time. I posted a link in the description on another video I did for custom 54 lighting on a fog light install, and it shows you how to take off your front bumper step by step. So I'll post that in the link, in the description, I'm sorry, and you can click on that, watch how to take it apart, and then we'll cut to me taking out the headlights. So I just wanted to say, if you're doing a retrofit, be sure to mark the wall of where your headlights are. So as you can see, mine are already lined up because I've already done these, but you would mark a line where your OEM housings are. You would kind of like that blue tape right there. You would put both lines, so whenever you retrofit it and you put your new projectors, you can line them up to match the OEM housings. Okay, so to take out your headlight, to me it's easier if you have 2 people, but if you don't, you can always just do it with one. There's 4 bolts that hold it in. There's one here, one over here, one over here, and one underneath this plastic flap. Okay, so when you're taking these out, either if you're by yourself, take out everything but maybe 2 screws at the top, start unplugging everything from the back, take out the 2 screws and it pops out. But I like to take all the bolts off, pull the headlight out a little bit. While someone holds it, I unplug everything from the back. Okay, so with the headlight bolted in, I went ahead and went from the back and unplugged everything. Now that it's unplugged, I went ahead and take out all the bolts now, and it should just freely come out. That's all there is to it. I have a lot more connections because obviously I have all these things in there, but yeah, now we're gonna start opening this. Okay, so if you're opening your OEM housings, they are PERMASEAL, so you're gonna have to cook them at a higher temperature for longer. When I did my first OEM ones, I put them in there for 240 for 20 minutes, and it took about 3 cycles. So what that means is in there 20 minutes, took it out, started to pry, then it cools down and you have to keep doing it until you get the whole headlight open. But since mine are aftermarket, I'm gonna set this to 225 and leave them in there for 10 minutes. This is an electric oven. I put the oven rack to the very bottom, and my headlights barely fit in here. So again, people have had bad luck with gas ovens. So I've always used electric. To bake, 225 degrees, like I said earlier. And I'm just gonna let this preheat, and I'm gonna go start taking apart the old. Okay, so to open up the headlights, there's gonna be a couple of things you need. This little pick tool, or something like a needle or small of that sort, a Phillips screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver. This is to pry open the housing, and these pry tools. This makes it a lot easier to open up the housing. So while the oven's preheating, we're gonna go ahead and take off almost everything on here that doesn't need to go in the oven. We just basically need the housing and the lens to go in there. So any bulbs, any pieces of plastic, anything that is removable that does not need to go in, go ahead and remove it now. So I'll start doing that step. So there's these 2 breather holes. I just get this little pick tool, try to get behind it and just give it a little slide, and it pops out, and actually you can see directly into the headlight. All this does is let any type of trapped moisture get out of the headlight. These are extremely important. This aftermarket headlight came with some that were kind of crappy, so I transferred my OEM ones to it. One right here. So I went ahead and removed that one in the previous shot, and I went ahead and removed this one too. So this is where your signal light bulb goes in. This is the side marker bulb, low beam cap. This was from my OEM headlights, but again, this is an aftermarket headlight. I used to have HIDs, and this is the previous hole that I sealed up with JB Weld, and this is my new hole for my new LED projectors. So that's a low beam. Then you got the high beam. Usually you'll have a bulb in here. I have a high lens projector. And these other 2 connections are this is my accent lighting. So this is a wire gland that goes into the back of my headlight for my strips, and these are for my 2 hexagon halos right here. If you plan on doing any type of accent lighting, I highly recommend buying these. They're called cable glands. You can buy a variety pack on Amazon. I'll post the link in the description of which one I purchased. So what these do is you drill a hole, you mount this to there. I put JB Weld on it, on the back of it, just to make sure it doesn't move. And what it is it's a little rubber seal that you feed the wires through and you squeeze them so no water gets in. This is a lot cleaner than just drilling a hole and putting silicone. I guarantee you it's gonna leak if you do that. So there's a wire that goes from here and connects here for your low beam on your OEM harness. I deleted mine because I'm using the LED projector I have in here now. So you'll go ahead and need to remove that too. But now I'm gonna start stripping everything now that I've explained what everything is. I'm gonna start by taking off this plastic bracket right here with these screws. This is for your plastic bumper to snap into. Those 3 screws, this plastic piece just comes off, and we can set it over here. Try to keep everything organized. Now I'm gonna start taking off the rubber cap, the back of the low beam cap, these wire glands. Again, you won't have these, but I'm gonna unscrew it, and I'm gonna go ahead and depin these connectors right here so they'll slide through. Also, I forgot to mention, when you're taking off your headlights off your vehicle, it's easier just to unscrew the signal light bulb and pop it out than trying to disconnect it. I don't know what it is, but I always have trouble disconnecting that connector. So instead, I just take out the bulb and leave it on the vehicle. It's easier to just disconnect it. And for some reason, I need pliers to take these out. They're pretty tight in there most of the time. So yeah, now we're gonna go ahead and start taking everything. So for your high beam rubber gasket, it's just a little, you can stick a flat head right in there and pull that up. I'm just using this little pick tool, but yeah, so you just pull it back. Okay, I don't wanna stab it, so I'm just gonna go ahead and just leave it there and then use my hand to pull it off. Okay. This little wire gland's in the way for me. Okay, that's all there is. Okay, so we'll set that aside. I'll start taking off the low beam dust cap. I went ahead and just twisted it counterclockwise, and it should just pop out. If you just have a bulb in there, it's a lot easier. You just pop it out. But I'm gonna have to fish this this wire through for my projector. I went ahead and push that wire through. It has a little grommet on there that protects water from getting in. So now that's off. So we'll set that aside. And now I'm gonna start depinning these connectors and take off these wire glands so everything can come up. OEM harness, there's going to be a connector here. You just need to lift this tab up and you need to pull this wire out. It's going to go into here. If you just give it a little tug, this rubber grommet should come out. I'm just going to go ahead and push from the inside out. So again, like, the only reason we're taking all this stuff off is because if we're putting it in an oven, we don't want anything to melt or burn. Electric grease in there to protect the connection so no water gets in. But I know it's a little hard to see, but there's these big holes underneath those pins. there's another hole on top of the pin that we're gonna have to push on. So I'm gonna let y'all watch as I depin them. So the easiest thing is find something small like these tweezers. And so again, it's above the pin. So we're gonna push in there, and it's just a little connection that you have to fold down. So I just work it in there and push it down a little bit, and it should come apart. See how I just depin that one? So now we'll do that to the rest of these pins. Take these off and take off this wire gland. So now I depinned all these connectors for, so these connectors here are actually for my strip that are in the eyebrow. I went ahead and depinned them over here. Now I'm gonna start working on the 2 hexagon halos. I'm gonna start depinning these connectors. A little bit easier, you just gotta push on top of this connector right here. There's a little tab that's holding it in place, but I'll go ahead and show you how that's done. There's a little tab that you have to push down on, and I just get this little pick tool or, you know, a pair of tweezers or whatever, and you're just gonna push down on it right here. Just give it a little good push, and then it should just pop out. Just give it a little tug from the back. That's how you do it. So now I'm gonna do it to the rest of these and the other connector right here for my 2 halos, and we'll move on to take off the glands. You just have to loosen it all the way, and they just slide off the end. So if you have those connectors on, it won't fit over these pins right here. So that's why you have to depin them before you can take this off. If you haven't done anything to your headlights, it's gonna be a lot easier than this. You're just gonna have to take apart the OEM low beam harness, the dust cap, the rubber boot, any bulbs. I actually left this one, I need to take that out. The breather hole caps, and that's basically it. And then the screws all the way around that hold the lens to the housing. Obviously I already did the build for this, and I have to, you know, take it back apart. So there's a lot more that I have to take apart that you won't have to. You went ahead and took off all the screws that are holding the lens to the housing around here. If yours is OEM, you're gonna have a lot more screws going all the way around. Don't try to take this off. This is your adjustment screw for your headlight, which lowers or raises your beam pattern. Also, I need to take this metal piece off. Why this bulb is always a bitch to get out, but you just twist it to the left and take it out. I had to use some pliers to take it apart, but now that it's out, we're ready to put our headlight in the oven. So now our oven's been preheated to 225. Do not put your headlight in the oven before it's at its temperature, because it will be hotter in there and you have a really good chance of melting something. So we're gonna go ahead and put our headlight in there. I went ahead and put all the wiring in the holes so they're not dangling or gonna catch fire or anything. So I know it's a little hard to see. I didn't want to let too much of the heat out, but just try to make sure that your headlight isn't touching the walls. So see how it's not touching the side right there? It's okay if the bracket does, but not the lens itself. So we'll go ahead and leave that in there for 10 minutes, and it should be ready to pull apart. So our headlight's ready to come out. We're gonna go set it on something soft so we don't scratch the lens. So with one hand I have a glove, the other hand I'm just the screwdriver, and I'm gonna start prying between the lens and the housing. With these, I'm going to stick these between the lens and the housing, start working our way around. You don't want to give it too much, because then you'll end up breaking the housing or the lens. So I know this is a little hard to see, I'm sorry. So you see it starting to separate right there? Okay, we're just going to keep working our way around. Okay, so make sure you pull these tabs over, and it should get easier. So once it becomes, I like doing it like this, it's just a little easier to me. Okay. Make sure you get all this glue off so it doesn't get on the lens. Okay, just gonna keep working our way. Okay, these wires right here are for my strips, so that's why I had to take off that this grommet right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull these through. Just keep prying it apart. Okay, this is for my low beam halo. Why I took that out. Okay, and that's all that's to it. Try your best not to touch the inside of the lens. I can't express this enough. If you get a smudge on there or anything, don't touch it, don't try to clean it. I'll post a link in the description on how Lightworks cleans the inside of a lens. If you touch it or try to clean it with any chemical, you'll ruin the inside of your headlight. So don't touch the inside of the lens. So this is my low beam projector. This is the Profile by Lens 2.0. I kind of made my own bracket. You can see a lot of JB Weld. Take it from me, go ahead and buy the bracket that Lightworks makes. It's just a lot easier and it's a lot sturdier. Mine's a little flimsy because I used the one that came with the aftermarket housing. But to go ahead and take this all apart, if you want to do it and paint it, there's a screw here. There's a screw here. And this signal light bucket should pop out along with this side marker bucket. If you want to, and then from there, you'll have just this bucket around here. I took mine out, stripped the chrome and painted it. If you ever want to paint, be sure to take the chrome off. You can either use oven cleaner, which is, it's cheaper, but I don't like using it. To me, the best method is super clean, the purple degreaser. Let it soak in there, it'll eat the chrome right off so you can paint it. But if you want to take this out, you have to pinch this little adjuster bracket right here. It's two little plastic pieces you squeeze and it should pop out. You have to do it up here too. This is the low beam adjuster like I was talking about, which is right here. This is where the screw goes to adjust it. And there's another one of these adjuster buckets back behind this reflector, the signal light reflector. But again, I'm not going to be taking these out because I'm just replacing that strip. So this is my low beam halo, which is the 106, I think, millimeter hexagon halo by Circuit Demons, which again, all of these products were purchased through Lightworks. This is the 18-inch profile RGB switchback strip and the 3-inch strip. I'm just replacing this 18-inch strip, but to take out this part of the housing, there's 3 screws, one here, and one here. I'm gonna go ahead and take those out so we can pull this from the lens. So now that the 3 screws are removed, I'm just gonna pull, again, I'm not touching the inside of the lens. I'm just gonna pull from this side, work my way up. Try to be gentle, don't try to scratch the lens. A little bit of glue stuck on there. And now you got your lens freed from your housing. So I stripped the chrome on mine. I painted this satin white along with the eyebrow, and I painted the rest of the housing satin black. I'm not a professional in any way. There's obviously some defects. So you can always take these to a professional paint shop if you want to get them painted right. But to mount the accent lighting, these strips come with adhesive. I don't recommend it. I don't recommend using epoxy or anything because I guarantee you when it's sitting in that headlight, it's just going to heat up and it will fall off. So what I do is I drill these holes. I don't know if you can see them, but I drill these holes. And what I do is I put one on this side and one on the underside, and I get fishing line. So I put the strip where I want it. I put the fishing line like a loop, and I tie a knot in the back. And once I tie a knot in the back, I put some JB Weld on top of the knot to protect it from coming untied so nothing comes loose. So you can see these are for the low beam halo, hexagon halo. This is for my 3-inch strip, and this is for my 18-inch strip. Again, I'm not a professional. This is how I do it, and it's always worked. These are the 2 strips right here that I'm gonna have to take apart, and I need to get the 18-inch strip out. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, replace it, and then I'm gonna show you how to put everything back together. So I already went ahead and removed the old strip, but you can see what I'm talking about as far as this big hole right here. That's for all the wires to go through. If you deep pin it, it's a lot easier to fish that through, because if you have the connector on, you have to drill a huge hole, which you can see, it doesn't look very good. So deep pin it, measure the hole that you need to make. So I drilled that big hole for the wires and these little holes for the fishing line. So now I'm gonna feed the new strip through there, the wiring through there, lay the strip down where I want it, and then start getting the fishing line in and basically put one in through there, pull it on the back and tie a knot. After I tie the knot, put a little dab of JB Weld to hold the knot through. Try to figure out where I want it. And if you haven't done holes like me, you would put it where you want it, and then you would basically mark it somewhere with a pin or something. Start drilling your holes, and you just need one on each side. And I kind of put a bunch just because I don't want it. So I got the new strip installed. Went ahead and just put it in there, tied the fishing line. So you can see the little knots in the back over here, and now I'm about to mix some JB Weld and cover up those knots, and also put some JB Weld where the wires are coming through. I just added the JB Weld. I'm gonna wait for it to dry, and then I'll start reassembling everything. Okay, so I just want to stress this a lot. Before you ever put back together your headlights, you should always test all the components to make sure they work. I already tested almost everything except for the new strip that I put in, so I'm gonna go ahead and test that now. So I just went ahead and connected it to the connector it's supposed to go to. You may want to add electrical tape between the black wire and the rest of them so it doesn't short out. But again, this is just a quick test to make sure everything works. So it's hooked up to my parking light, so it's turning on my parking light. So if it's any other color than white, that means it's not working. So right now, my truck is set to turn on white anytime it turns off and turns back on. And you can see how all three colors are connected. Now, if one of the colors aren't connected, it will be a different color. So if I were to disconnect the green, it would be a combination of red and blue, which is purple. So let me go ahead and do that for you. So I just disconnected the green, and you can see now it's purple. So just for the quick test, you should hook up all three of them. If it's any color other than white, that means that something went wrong along the way, and you need to trace your steps. You could have ripped the wire off the back of the strip, you could have bent the strip somewhere, but mine seems to be working, so I'm gonna go ahead and seal it back up. So now that everything's tested and it's ready to go, we can start reassembling this. I really can't stress enough how much you should test your unit before putting it together, because there's nothing worse than whenever you get all done, put it together, slap it on the truck, and then something goes wrong and you have to take it all back apart. So test all your components before sealing it back up. Okay, so I got the lens on its face. Went ahead and put the housing back in its spot. The glue has dried right here where the new strip went and the knots behind the fishing line. So when you're putting this in, just make sure that each screw hole lines up and that these tabs are seated. Now we're ready to put the screws in and line it up with the housing, and we should be able to seal it back up pretty soon. Okay, so now we're ready to line up the lens to the housing. So these are those wire glands I was talking about. So this is where my two strips from the lens are going to go through, the thing that make the eyebrow, and the halo on the low beam needs to be fished through here to go to this wire gland right here. Okay, so I'm getting ready to put the lens back on the housing, and you can see I fished these are for the strips right here. I fished these already through the wire gland. I went ahead and just found a way to fish this one underneath the low beam projector, and I'm just going to keep pulling and pushing and trying to line everything up at the same time. So this glue is pretty sticky. So for the people that are doing an OEM retrofit or whatever, you need to make sure you clean out this entire channel right here of the old PERMASEAL, or it will not seal right. So you're going to take out all that old glue and you're going to use this stuff called retro rubber. I'll be sure to link it in the description. But once you clean it all out, you're going to lay that strip of that retro rubber, and you're going to go ahead and just start to push everything together and get ready for the oven. So if you scraped out all the old OEM PERMASEAL and you put that retro rubber, you're not going to need to go back to 240. We're going to go to 225 for 10 minutes or 12 minutes. Yeah, I would say 12 minutes. And so I went ahead and put the wires kind of put up where they're not going to be dangling again. And you just try to get it as close as you can. So it's not sealed, but it's just touching. And we're going to go ahead and set it back in there. So again, for another 12 minutes, you're going to need a pair of clamps. I would say about 2, and some gloves so you can handle the hot, and channel locks. Also channel locks so you can squeeze the channel, not too hard, but again, I'll show you in the next clip. So now that the headlight's out of the oven, I'm going to start sealing everything, popping these tabs over. So what I recommend is you get it seated and go ahead and put the screws to hold everything down. So I went ahead and brought them over here. You should feel it grab. If it's not grabbing, it's not lined up right. It should get pretty tight. You don't want to twist too hard or you'll start going into the plastic. Again, this is just to hold the lens so you can start clamping everything down with the clamps. If you're using OEM housings, you're gonna have a lot more screws than me. These are aftermarket, so I only have 4. Again, if they're not getting tight, that means you're not lined up. So this is the last screw. If you have OEM housings, you'll have screws going all the way around, which is to me better, but my OEM housings were kind of trash because I used them for so long. So now, if you look along here, you should see the glue squeezing out, and you should have these tabs popped over. If they're not, grab your vice grips and just squeeze it a little bit. Make sure it's seated good. And I like to put my clamps. Oh, also make sure you're on a towel or something soft so you're not scratching up your headlight. So I have these clamps right here. Just gonna put one here. Again, you don't want to overkill it, but you want it tight enough that it's holding it in place. Putting one over here. Again, you're not trying to overkill it, but you want it tight enough to hold it. It's obvious I'm not putting that in the right spot. Okay, now, again, the top is where your water's gonna get in if it gets in. So I'm just leaving that there. I'm just gonna give it a few little squeezes everywhere. If you have more clamps, the better, you know. Just make sure you squeeze that channel in there. And now you're gonna let it dry, or excuse me, cool off. Once it's cool, then we can start putting everything back together. Okay, so now we're gonna reassemble the headlight. Put the breather holes back on, the breather caps, excuse me. This plastic piece that holds the bumper on. Put that, 3 screws there. Let me move this out of the way. The cap, the dust cap for this, the rubber boot for this, and this bulb goes in right there, and that should be it. Yeah, should be ready to go after that. Okay, so I went ahead and put on the bottom bracket with the screws, the breather hole covers, the side marker bulb, high beam rubber gasket, low beam dust cap, and I already went ahead and tightened the wire grommets, so you know no water's gonna get in there. This is where the low beam harness goes into. My aftermarket one, I was able just to cut them and pull these out, so this is sealed. If you're working on your OEM headlights, I'm pretty sure you're just gonna have to find a way to cover this hole. You can use silicone or whatever. And but yeah, these are basically ready to get back on the truck. All I have to do now is, this is what it's supposed to look like. There's a certain orientation you have to follow on these. Also, don't lose track of which accent lighting is which. Like, I know for a fact I put this black tape on the smaller one. So this is my high beam hex halo. This is my low beam hex halo. These are the 2 strips for the eyebrow part of the headlight. I know that this strip with the red heat shrink for me is my 3-inch strip. This one over here is my 18-inch strip. So keep track of which one is which, because they have a driver that is specific to that certain accent lighting. If you hook up the wrong one to the other, or to whatever one, it will fry it for sure. So this 18-inch one, if I hook it up to the 3-inch LED, the 18-inch driver to the 3-inch LED strip, it will definitely fry it, and vice versa. So just keep track of which one's which, because you have to hook it up to the correct driver. If you don't, like I said, you will fry it. So just keep track of which one's which. So to repin these connectors, you're gonna have to pull the tab that we pushed down. You're gonna have to pull it back up. My favorite thing is an X-Acto knife blade, or just something like this. And all you're gonna do is you're just going to get underneath that tab and just pop it up just a little bit. Don't overdo it or you'll break it. So if you'll see right there, it's now lifted and it will snap into its connector and won't come out. So this one is the second one. So go ahead and pop it in there. So see, it's in there now and it's not coming out. So just match another one that you didn't do or whatever. Just go compare it to the driver and make sure that red connects to red, black connects to black, and you know, so on and so forth for blue and green. Just make sure they match what you're going to connect to on the truck. But I highly recommend using this stuff. If you don't use it, the chances of you know, creating some corrosion between the connections is likely to happen. But all you're going to do is take a little glob of this and you're just going to put it between each connection. Low beam, high beam, accent lighting, it doesn't matter what it is, put it on there. And it'll save you a lot of headaches later down the road whenever you're having to deal with connection issues. So now we're going to go ahead and put, after we've made all our connections, put some dielectric grease. We're going to go ahead and put these bolts back where they go. So don't tighten it all the way, just get it in there. Because it's not good to tighten it until we're all hooked up. There we go. Okay, so now we can tighten everything up. So now I have my handy assistant. He's going to turn on the headlights. It's on the signal light. Yeah, turn that all the way up. There we go. So everything appears to be turning on how it's supposed to. So we got our beam pattern and everything. Looks good. So go ahead and hit the hazard lights if you don't mind, Roman. So I'm just making sure my signal functions correctly. Turn it off. Okay, now I'm gonna open the Bluetooth app and make sure all the colors work as they're supposed to. So here we go, I'm waiting for it to connect. There we go. So I'm gonna cycle through the colors, make sure they all work as they're supposed to, and everything looks good. So we're ready to put the bumper back on and put everything back together. Okay, so this is the sealant that I used to reseal the headlights. It's a little ribbon of butyl. You'll take this ribbon and you'll put it in the channel. I'll be sure to post a link in the description on how to do that. I'm probably gonna post a lot of Lightworks videos just because they're really good at this. But if you ever get some sealant on your lens, again, if this is on the inside, you're gonna have to figure out a different way to clean it. But if it's on the outside, you can see I have some right here, 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 a little bit right there it looks like. Don't take gasoline or anything to take it off. Just grab a little bit of this and you can just start dabbing it and it'll come off. So if there's any residue left, you can always, see I got most of it right there. But if you really want it to look good, I recommend using this. This is safe on it. It won't mess up your lens or anything like that. But use this to get most of it. Use the old sealant, just dab it and pull it off. Then go after with this, wipe everything off. And then I would get alcohol or window cleaner or something to wipe off the excess of this. Okay, so now that we got the bumper back on and everything, we're ready to test the lights. Even though I only did one headlight for this video, it's the same procedure for the other side. So just follow the video and you should be fine. So yeah, let's get a test going and see what these colors look like. So I hope you enjoyed the video. This is my first time doing something like this, so if you have any questions or any concerns or whatever, just feel free to leave a comment. I'll try to get back to you. I'm also in the 5th Gen 4Runner Familia Facebook group page. I'll be posting this in there too, so if you have any questions, just comment on it or reach out to me, whatever. I'll try to get back to you. Yeah, so again, it's not easy if you're dealing with OEM headlights. It's going to be harder. These were purchased through 1A Auto, so I don't know how long they'll last as far as longevity. OEM is definitely better, but it's also significantly harder. I did OEM headlights. They lasted for 2 to 3 years, and I kind of wanted to change it up, but instead of using my old housings, I wanted to get some new fresh ones. I'm going to wrap these with clear bra to try to protect them a little bit longer. But yeah, so please leave a like, and again, please comment if you have any questions.